Connect the Dots podcast. My name is Heather, and I'm your host. My pronouns are she, her. My visual description today, for those that are visually impaired or not watching this on YouTube, I present as a white woman with short strawberry blonde hair, and I'm wearing red glasses. I have on a gray t-shirt today that says "Be Kind," and I am sitting in front of a dark teal wall that has various pieces of art displayed. I realized when I was writing the notes for today's podcast that since I don't have an official intro anymore, or I haven't been using the one I had previously, I probably should start the episodes with a little info about the podcast. So if you're new here, you're like, what did I get myself into? So let's give it a go. Connect the Dots is a podcast that takes time to explore deep, thought-provoking questions that I have about various subjects. We focus on learning more about neurodiversity. I bring interviews from individuals that I know or that I've met online that really cover a variety of subjects. And I help talk about learning how to navigate the workplace. That's definitely a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. How's that? Because, my whole goal with the podcast really is through all of this that we're connecting the dots and bringing everything together in this beautiful journey that we call life. Something like that. I hope you're still here. I hope you still want to be here today. I will also say I'm trying out a new program to record the podcast. So if I'm trying to look at the camera, and I got lots of stuff on my screen, and so it's a little weird today. So just getting used to just trying this out. We'll see how it goes. If I like it, I'll keep working with it, because it has some features on it that I may make an upgrade to at some point and use. So anyways, enough about this. Let's get to why hopefully you're here today. And that's because it is the second week of the month, which means we are talking about neurodiversity. So back in the 100 Days of Podcast, I spent time talking through neurodiversity and the book, The Divergent Mind. Somewhere in around a 70 to 80, I think was in that span. I opened up on the podcast about my current journey into my own personal neurodivergence and trying to figure this out. And I equated this journey to walking into a dark room, and as you ask questions, as you learn more, right, you're turning on small sources of light. It's maybe like lighting a candle or turning on a small lamp. And every little small light shows more and more of the room. Because when I started this journey, it was pitch black. I had no clue. And so I started by simply saying something to my counselor. And then I reached out to find a doctor. And then I went to a doctor. So today I'm going to give you a little update on kind of where I'm at, what I found out from the doctor, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. So I had my first appointment with a psychiatrist at the end of May. So just a couple of weeks ago. I can't lie about this, y'all. I will tell you, I was really, really nervous. I was sitting in the waiting room, and I went back in my text to look, and I texted my friend. I said, I am beyond nervous. It's the first time I've talked to someone who can actually diagnose me. And it's a little scary. And it was scary in the fact of, there's just so much unknown, right? It's that dark room. I don't know what's going to be there. And I've been to several counselors in my life. And the first visit is always hard. Hear me out. It is always hard. The first time you ever visit a counselor, it is definitely difficult. I just heard a noise on my computer. It wasn't this computer. It was another one. I have 3 right now. Distracted easily, Heather? Yes, I am. Anyways, but opening up to somebody is hard, especially because it's like, well, it's a stranger. You don't know this person. This person doesn't know you. That's a blessing, I will tell you that, because there is no judgment. They are there because they want to help you. You're opening up about things to this person that you may not have even ever voiced out loud before. It's hard. Therapy is hard. It is. There's no doubt about it. There are many, many benefits to going to therapy, to doing that hard work. I do know that. But don't be discouraged when I say that it's hard. Don't be discouraged that it's work. Because a good counselor, a good therapist will know the right questions to ask. They'll know how to help you feel comfortable about opening up. And honestly, if they don't, if it's not a good match, find another one. As frustrating as it can be to have to, man, I gotta find another counselor because this is just not working out. It's okay. Don't continue to see somebody if it's not a good fit, because it's not going to help you. Okay, sorry, I got off a little tangent there. Anyway, so the doctor finishes up with the previous patient, comes to get me out of the waiting room. I go in, I take a seat, and here it comes. He asks me why I'm there. In my head, the dialogue starts. How do I say it? Am I really sure? Oh my gosh, it's just in my head, isn't it? Do I really belong here? Do I need to spend this money? Where's the bathroom? I mean, Heather, just answer the question. Like, all of that is going on in my head when he says, well, why are you here? And so I'm like, all right. I think I may have ADHD or something similar. Not sure. And so he says, why do you think that? Again, my brain. See, if you have to answer this question, surely you shouldn't be here. It's all in your head. It's all in your head, Heather. Really? Really? You don't need to be here. That's in my head. In my head, this dialogue is running. But I know this. I know that that's my internal dialogue. So I'm like, okay, stop. So my response to the doctor, because I've thought about this, right? How can I make this... I'm very verbose. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, I can be very verbose. So, I was like, okay, how to keep it short and sweet. And so my answer basically was, well, I've been doing some research after seeing a few different things online. I've talked to my counselor, and she recommended that I get tested. I actually have testing scheduled in August. But a friend had mentioned this particular psychiatrist to me, and said I could probably get in sooner. And so here I am. And that's the truth, right? When I went through my insurance, and they matched, they were able to find me a place here locally where they do testing. I got an appointment for August, like way down the road. And my friend told me about this particular doctor who is a little bit easier to get into because he does not take insurance. You can file it yourself. And so I was like, you know what? This is my health. Let's do it. Let's go. So I was like, what do I have to lose other than the money of one appointment? If it's not a good fit, or if I'm still confused, don't have answers, I can always keep that appointment for August. So anyway, so there I am. So here, doc, here I am. This is why I'm here. We talked about my life. We hopped around various topics, and finally finally, I just pulled out my list of symptoms that I've been compiling over the last couple of months. And I just started reading them. And he stopped me a few times, asked me some more questions. And probably about 30 minutes into the conversation, I started to feel more comfortable. Because, again, like I said, it's hard. You're trying to learn this person. You're telling this person, information that's difficult to say out loud if you've never talked about it. I mentioned to him that I was nervous at some point in this conversation. It may have been at the beginning. It may have been in the I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But I told him I was nervous because if I go through this, if I don't have ADHD or something like that, if I don't have any like a named kind of neurodivergence, does that just mean I'm weird? Right? Is this stuff just normal? And I'm going outside the lines. Like, it's all that self-doubt, almost imposter syndrome. Like when you feel like something's off, but you don't know how to pinpoint it. You don't have the words to describe it. You don't have the background. You don't know the questions to ask. You're kind of Dr. Googling it or TikToking it or Instagram, YouTube. You're getting all the information from so many places, and you don't know if it's this or if it's that or whatever. So it gets to be. You start to doubt yourself. You're like, okay, things line up when I look at it, but obviously he's the doctor. He's going to be the one that's going to be able to say, okay, yeah, I feel like this is this or this is that. And so it was scary to kind of be in that moment. Had a lot of nerves around, again, turning on those lights. When I turn all of the lights on, what's going to be there? That's kind of the things going through my head. And so we, like I said, we talked for probably an hour, because I was there for probably an hour and a half or so. We talked about a lot of different things and covered a lot of different subjects. And when we wrapped up, right, we get to the end and we're, he's like, hey, he's like, I do think, you, from everything you told me, I do believe you have ADHD. He called it neurodivergent ADHD. I've never heard it called that before. So I'm still researching and I'm going to continue to ask him about it. Because I've just never heard it called specifically neurodivergent ADHD. He did tell me, because I mentioned, I had the test done. And he told me, he said, ADHD is a clinical diagnosis. He said, there are tests, there are scales, all of that. He said, but ultimately it's a clinical diagnosis. Based on a test can't specifically say if you have it or not. It can help lead you to that conclusion. But there's not a definitive test that says, okay, you've got this. Yes, you're ADHD. No, you have to take in all the factors. That's why you go see a psychiatrist. So, so I felt comfortable with the diagnosis that he gave me. Still have a lot of questions. I see him again in a couple of weeks. This time telemed, thankfully, because his office is an hour away from me. But I did get to see family while I was there, so that was nice. But it was a lot, to kind of, be told, like, okay, you have ADHD. All right. And he told me too, in regards to the test, he said, now, you may not test as ADHD. He said, I'll be honest. You may not test as ADHD. It would probably, it may not show up. He said, but from everything you have told me, all of the things that we have talked about today, I feel confident that ADHD is something that you have. So, another light turned on. Like, okay, now that we know, what do we do? So I'm working with him on medication, on figuring all of that out, getting all of that regulated, to try and feel better. And I'm going to talk about some of those symptoms towards the end of the podcast today. So don't worry, I'm not just going to be like, all of the things and not give you any more kind of background, but I want to back up for a moment, right? Because like I said, we have a diagnosis now, but there's lots of unanswered questions. We're at a starting point. I'm still diving deeper into ADHD. I have started to, follow several accounts on Instagram and YouTube. I'm not on TikTok yet. I'm really trying hard not to be. I don't need another social platform. However, there are I keep hearing good things about some people on TikTok, and my friend sends me stuff from TikTok, and it just makes it difficult. Anyways, whole other story. But I've got so many articles. I pulled up so many articles for this episode. I'll be honest. I went down the rabbit hole the other day when I was researching, and was just like, ooh, I could talk about this. I could talk about this. I could talk about this. And I have like 3 journal articles, pulled up that I haven't gotten to read yet. And so when I was going through to pull this together today, I was like, I'm going to have to read those and just bring that information back next month because I don't have time to read them. And I want to try to keep this as concise as I can. Concise is typically not my game, but I'm trying. Okay, so not going to cover it all today. But let's get the basics out of the way. So I'm 38 years old. So being diagnosed ADHD at 38 years old. Wow. When I was younger, I don't remember it being called ADHD. It started being called that in 1994. But it was called ADD. I just remember that was the letters that were used, right? Attention deficit disorder. And it was mainly used to describe boys. I don't recall any girls that I went to school with talking about having ADD or ADHD or anything like that. And research has come a very long way since I was in elementary school. Honestly, I don't know if I were in school today, would they pick up on it? Would they still pick up on any of these symptoms, these tendencies, things that I have? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back. Let's get a base understanding of what ADHD is by definition. I have 3 definitions that I want to review with you. They're all a little bit different, and they all get a little, I guess, kind of easier to understand as we go. It kind of builds on each other. So the first one is from the DSM-5, which is the manual for diagnosis when it comes to things like this. And it defines attention deficit hyperactivity disorder as a persistent pattern of inattention and or hyperactivity, impulsivity, almost couldn't say that, that interferes with functioning or development as characterized by inattention and or hyperactivity. So, inattention is, so the inattention part, this one is 6 or more of the following symptoms have persisted for at least 6 months to a degree that is consistent with developmental level and that negatively impacts directly on social or academic occupational activity. And then it goes into say symptoms are not solely a manifestation of oppositional behavior, defiance, hostility, or failure to understand tasks or instructions. And for older adolescents and adults, this would be 17 and older, at least 5 symptoms are required. So with the inattention side, this is often fails to give close attention to details, right? So overlooks or misses details, work is inaccurate. Difficulty sustaining attention. So having difficulty remaining focused during lectures or conversations or lengthy reading. does not seem to listen when spoken to, right? Your mind seems elsewhere, even in the absence of obvious distraction. Doesn't follow through on instructions or fails to finish schoolwork, chores, duties in the workplace, right? They start tasks but quickly lose focus and get sidetracked. They often have difficulty organizing tasks or activities, meaning like difficulty managing sequential tasks or keeping materials or belongings in order. Poor time management. Often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that are required to sustain mental effort. So for adults, this would be like preparing reports, completing forms, reviewing lengthy papers. Often losing things for tasks or activities, right? Glasses, your phone, tools, books, wallet, keys. It's often, they're often easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. So this may include like unrelated thoughts. So like in an adult, that's kind of how it would present. Like your mind's just like unrelated thoughts like pop in your head. And then the last one for inattention is often forgetful in daily activities. So doing chores, running errands, returning calls, paying bills, keeping appointments, that kind of stuff. For the second half, the hyperactivity and impulsivity, this one, it's 6 or more of the following symptoms have persisted for at least 6 months to a degree that is inconsistent with developmental level, and that negatively impact directly on social or academic occupational activities. Again, so for 17 and older, at least 5 symptoms are required. So these include often fidgets with or taps hands or feet or squirms in their seat. Often leaves their seat in situations where remaining seat is expected. Often runs about or climbs in situations where it's inappropriate. It says, note in adolescents or adults, this may be limited to just feeling restless, right? Often unable to play or engage in leisure activities quietly. Is often on the go, acting as if driven by a motor. So this one, like it's unable to be or uncomfortable being still for extended periods of time, like restaurants or meetings. May be experienced by others as being restless or difficult to keep up with. Talks excessively. Often blurts out an answer before the question's been completed. Often has difficulty waiting his or her turn, like while waiting in line. Often interrupts or intrudes on others, right? Butts into conversations, games, activities. It says for adolescents and adults, this may intrude into or take over what others are doing. So that's straight from the DSM-5. That information, the link is the links to everything that I'm gonna share with you today are in the notes, so you can go read more in depth if you'd like. From here, so now that we've got like the clinical kind of definition of what ADHD is, I want to share this section from the website exceptionalindividuals.com. So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects the nervous system, including the brain, during development from childhood to adulthood. People with ADHD can experience I cannot say that word today, impulsivity, hyperactivity, distractedness, and difficulty following instructions and completing tasks. Since 1994, right, this is where I got that information earlier, experts have used the term attention deficit / hyperactivity disorder to refer to neurodivergence that affects attention and concentration. However, some people do not experience hyperactivity, and associated traits are such as lower risk aversion or impulsivity. So the name attention deficit hyperactivity disorder includes the / between attention deficit and hyperactivity. This means that people diagnosed with ADHD could have either or both presentations, inattentive or hyperactive impulsive. So you have 3 different presentations of ADHD. You have a combined presentation, right, where you get a little of both. Then you have a predominantly inattentive, and you have a predominantly hyperactive impulsive presentation. So you can get one of 3 diagnoses. On the Mayo Clinic's site, they actually have a page that's focused on adult ADHD. And so what they say is ADHD is a mental health disorder that includes a combination of persistent problems, such as difficulty paying attention, hyperactivity, and impulse behavior. Adult ADHD can lead to unstable relationships, poor work and school performance, low self-esteem, and other problems. Though it's called adult ADHD, symptoms start in early childhood and continue into adulthood. In some cases, ADHD symptoms in children, in some cases, ADHD is not recognized or diagnosed until the person is an adult. Adult ADHD symptoms may not be as clear as ADHD symptoms in children. In adults, hyperactivity may decrease, but struggles with impulsiveness, restlessness, and difficulty paying attention may continue. Pardon me. Hold on. I must take a sip of water. Okay. All right. So there's the kind of the three definitions, right? To me, they kind of built on each other, right? It kind of broke it down a little bit differently in each one to kind of give that full picture. And when I was thinking about this, right, getting a diagnosis as an adult feels weird. Like I mentioned at the beginning, when I went into the doctor's office, like I felt like like imposter syndrome. That whole thing about like, is it really? Like, no. Like my brain's over here going, no, you're not. What are you talking about? That's, it's what my brain's over here telling me. Like I'm trying to find an excuse, for something, but I have no clue what that excuse is for. Like, what am I trying to make an excuse for? I'm not. It's just a rational thought in my head, that's telling me that going here and asking these questions and trying to figure out this diagnosis is irrational. It's not irrational. Like, it's not. So there we go. Welcome to the inner workings of my head. So the website Attitude Mag said diagnosing an adult is trickier than diagnosing a child. And typically, so in the DSM-5, almost all of the criteria is geared toward diagnosing children. They have made a couple of updates, as you can tell from what I read, but an ADHD diagnosis in adulthood emerges only from careful clinical interviews conducted by a specialist in ADHD who takes his or her time with the evaluation. And I will say, I do feel like the doctor, he took his time with me. He asked me really good questions. He let me just kind of, conscious, my, subconscious, my conscious mind, whatever. He just kind of let my thoughts flow. So, I do feel like that's very accurate, right? That this diagnosis as an adult does, really come from that careful clinical interview versus just relying mainly on like a test or something like that. Now, I mentioned earlier, right, I would talk about some of the symptoms that I shared with my doctor, some of the things that, for me, these were the things when I started seeing stuff online and I started researching, I started asking questions. These are the things that really made it click in my head to go, okay, wait a minute. Let's talk to somebody about this. And I have two really close friends that both also have ADHD, and so I was able to lean on them as well, to kind of ask questions and have that kind of comfortable conversation with a friend, as I've been walking through this as well. So the symptoms that you may be wondering. So the very first one that I wrote down on my symptom list, and the very first one I told him, I have a leg shake. And I have had, like, my leg shakes. I don't start it. I can stop it if I notice it, or somebody notices it, but within seconds it starts again. But I remember from a very young age, my grandmother, I would be sitting at the table or sitting on the couch next to her, and my leg would start shaking, and she would put her hand on my leg. Heather, stop shaking. Oh, I'm sorry. And I'd stop. A minute later, I was shaking again. Heather, stop shaking. When I was younger, I would call it my internal tempo. I was in band from fifth grade to, when I was starting in fifth grade, I was like, oh, it's just my internal tempo. It's fine. This, I will say at this point, as an adult, I know one of my friends told me, we were talking about this the other day, and she told me, she was like, Heather, that leg shake. No, you gotta stop it. She's like, it's really annoying. I was like, I know. It's annoying to me too. But when you can't make it stop, I can't. Like, my chiropractor gets on to me because I sit cross-legged in my chair. I sit pretzel style. That's what somebody called it the other day. I like that better than crisscross applesauce. That's a lot of words. So pretzel style. That is how I sit in my office chair. It's how I'm sitting right now. And that, for me, it helps me to not shake. When I put my feet on the floor or my feet on my little foot resty thing under my desk, if I'm sitting on the couch and I put my feet on the floor, I can't. If my feet are on the floor, I'm gonna shake. It's not all the time, but it's more often than not. And sometimes I don't even notice it until somebody points it out to me. I don't know. But I've always had it. Always. Okay, I'll stop talking about my leg shake. If you know me, you know my leg shake well. And my apologies if it's annoying. I try to pay attention to make it stop, and I try not to do it. I promise I do try. Okay, the next one I'd share with him is hyperfocus. So my hyperfocus comes in a couple different ways. If you watched The Amazing Race this last season, so Penn and Kim Holderness were on there, and Penn has ADHD, and he uses the hyperfocus, he used the superpower of hyperfocus to really help them in a lot of their challenges. Because with hyperfocus, you can kind of tune everything out and kind of just zone really into it. And there's a lot of times I can really do that at work. Or if I'm reading, if I'm studying, researching something or digging into something, I get really hyper-focused, and I will, I'll look up and be like, oh shoot, it's 5 hours later, oh man, I think I went to the bathroom, I think I went and got some water, I don't know, because I just was so focused on whatever it was I was doing. The other part of that's other part of kind of hyper-focus on the bad side, well, I guess it's not really hyper-focus. Again, I don't have all the words to correctly describe all of this stuff too, so y'all you gotta deal with me as I increase my vocabulary around this stuff. But the next thing that I talked to him about was my insomnia. So it's not every night, thankfully. It used to be more often. I think now it probably happens every couple of weeks, maybe once or twice a month at this point. But get done with work and we'll eat and we'll sit on the couch and I'll watch, we'll watch TV, and maybe Jay goes to bed. I'm like, oh, I'm just, I'm watching a show. I'll be in a minute, with all intentions of let me shut off that TV show. Let me go. But I can't. My brain won't shut off. it just won't. Like, I can't. It won't shut down, and it's like it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And to the point where I will stay up all night. I may take a 2-hour nap from like 5 a.m. to 7, get up, get ready, go to work, maybe take a nap in the afternoon, and then go to bed the next night. Like, it's, I don't like when it happens. It's very frustrating when it happens, because I feel like, why couldn't I have gone to bed? Why couldn't I have just gone to lay down? Even though I'm laying on the couch trying to sleep. Like, I try to sleep, and it doesn't, because my brain just does not shut off. The next one is depression. So I think I've talked about it on here before. I've dealt with depression on and off since my teens. And so that's, that is something that can come with ADHD. Sometimes it can be a result of, sometimes it can be a comorbidity. So ADHD doesn't cause depression, but the depression can make the ADHD worse, like, if that makes sense. Well, things that we're going to talk more about as we continue. I won't dive into that today. And then another one, I had a lot. I'm not going to share the whole list with you because it's a long list. Because some of them aren't specifically related, but I was like, let me just tell you all the things, and then you pick out from it what you want to talk about. But one of the last ones is difficulty focusing on, like, people speaking. When a lot of times this happens in, like, a crowded, like, if we're in a restaurant, if I'm at like one of Jay's shows, or if we're at a concert, we can be like this close to each other. We can be like face to face, side by side, and you can talk to me, and there's so much around me that I can't hear you. I can't focus in on what you're saying. And it happens, it's not just in places like that. It happens at home too. Like, I will be, I'll come out of my office or something, and my mind is trying to remember, okay, like, I need to go get water, I need to go to the bathroom, I need to get a snack, like, before my next meeting. I've got like 3 minutes, go. So I'm just so focused, and I'll come out of my office, and Jay will, like, say something to me, and it does not even register. Or like, he'll have to say my name like a couple of times to like get my attention, and it's not because sometimes it's because I'm wearing headphones and I'm listening to something. But like, in times like that, where it's like a 3 minute, like, let me run out kind of thing, it's not that at all. It's that I can't break the focus to know that somebody's talking to me, or to pay attention that somebody's talking to me. So yeah, things that I never really saw as related, in terms of just, if I went to the doctor and said, oh, well, I have these things, what would they say, right? They would probably focus on the fact that, oh, okay, so insomnia, let me give you something for that. Oh, depression, let's make sure that your medication's right. Like, oh, you can't hear when people talk to you, let's get your hearing checked. Like, those would probably be the things, and not that those things are bad, but it's being able to go, this is why you go to people who are trained for this. You don't just go to your general practitioner. You don't go to your primary care physician. You can talk to them first, and if they, if they can then refer you to a specialist, by all means. But unless they are trained to diagnose you, I highly recommend you get somebody that is specialized. Go to a psychiatrist to get diagnosed. If they feel testing is what you need, they will get you tested. All of that. So, needless to say, like, to round this out, because this is where my notes end. This is typically how it happens. I'm like writing, and yeah, I'm just done writing. Let's just go ahead and record. I'll just wrap it up on my own. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. So, anyways, yeah. So there's lots to unpack when it comes to ADHD, when it comes to the symptoms, when it comes to neurodivergent, neurodiversity and neurodivergent, I can't think of the words right now. It's 9:30 at night, so my words are dwindling as we go. This is typically why I write a script as well if I'm going to record later in the day, so that I don't have to think of the words because they're already on the paper. But yes. So, welcome to my world. I am looking forward to learning more about this, to share with you. If you have any questions, if there is anything that you're wondering about, maybe you're walking through this type of journey as well, please feel free to reach out to me. I am more than happy to share any of the resources, any of the people I follow online. I will gladly give that information out. So there's going to be a lot of links down in the description or in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast. Go take a look at all of those things. If you feel like if you've never been diagnosed with ADHD, and you feel like some of the things I talked about today, feel like maybe you have it, maybe you should go to get tested, absolutely, please go see your doctor. Please go see a psychiatrist, because even if it comes back and they say, no, it's not ADHD, they may find something else, that could be causing whatever's going on. And so, don't be scared to go into that dark room and turn on that first light. That's what I'll say. All right, that's going to be it for me today. Next week we'll have an interview. I have a lot of interviews recorded, so I just may pull one out of I just may put their name in a hat and pull out whichever one comes up. That will be who gets played next week, because I'm not sure, because I have several recorded and they're all so good. Oh, okay. Anyways, I'll stop talking. I'm going to go because I have to now edit this podcast so that it can go out to you at the appropriate time and date as I like to have it, which is Thursdays at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be available. My podcast is available every Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and on your preferred podcast platform. So I'm on Apple Podcast, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Podvine, I'm on Stitcher. There's lots of them. But you can check out my pod page, link again in the description. And you can check me out on Instagram. Come over and hang out with me. Let's talk about it. Let's figure all this stuff out together. And as I end today, I want you to know that you are loved and you are worthy, and there are great things ahead for you in this life if you trust and believe in the Lord. Thanks so much, everybody. Y'all have a fantastic day. Bye.